have any fear about my life.
On the 21st of August 2004, a grenade attack.
They thought that if they can assassinate me, then perhaps they can stop this. They can stop my voice.
They almost succeeded. 22 of her supporters died and 500 were injured. It was carnage. She herself was badly hurt.
I know my father sacrificed his life, and I am ready to sacrifice because I have to fulfill my father's unfinished job.
My grandfather gave this country independence. He fought the military dictatorships and gave this country independence. I believe my mother gave this country democracy back.
That fight for democracy dominated the 1980s. Sheikh Hasina worked with her sworn enemy, Khalida Zia, the leader of the Bangladesh National Party. The hatred between them went right back to 1975. Zia's husband had founded the BNP and had taken over power after Mujib's assassination. It had started what was in effect a blood feud.
So this type of deep hatred, mistrust dominates the Bangladesh politics. It's not like traditional political rivalry. It's deep mistrust, deep hatred.
The collaboration between the two women bore fruit. In 1991, democracy prevailed. But it was Khalida Zia who became Prime Minister, leaving Sheikh Hasina furious.
Election was manipulated many times. The result was change, and so many anomalies I found in the election process.
The feud between the two women reignited, and it has dominated Bangladeshi politics ever since.
These personal issues, family issues, those issues have generated so much hatred between these two ladies, between these two leaders, and they always want to equate these issues with idealistic issues.
Could you ever work with her seriously again, or is the rift just too wide?
We have ideological difference.
Yeah.
Because our party was established to ensure people's right. Every election, each and every election was free and fair. That way we conducted it because we believe in democracy. But in other hand, if you go through the history of BNP, during their time, local election or any by-election, every time there was killing, conspiracy, manipulation, so many incidents took place. So there is a basic difference.
This was the first meeting between the two ladies in 15 years, an indication, say optimists, that it may be the start of a new era in Bangladesh politics, though not everyone agrees.
I think the biggest difference between the two parties is the difference between the two ladies who head the two different parties. We've always had a dysfunctional parliament in Bangladesh since '71. We've ended up having one single party sitting in the parliament, the opposition never going to the parliament, and two leaders at the top who don't communicate with each other.
If the two of you run into each other, say in the room down the corridor or somewhere, you would speak to each other normally?
Of course we do.
Yeah.
Of course we do. You know, when my father was president, Ziaur Rahman was an army officer. He used to visit our house very often with his wife. In many occasions, social occasions, we met, we exchanged pleasantry. So that is not the point. It is absolutely ideological. It is how you run.
Ideological, yes.
Of course it is ideological.
They may have ideological differences, but perhaps there's one thing both women would agree on.
I think men are very jealous.
Men
because,
are?
Yes, men are very jealous.
They're jealous
because
of jealous of women getting into power. And things.
That's true. That's true, because they cannot come to power, that's why they are jealous. What I think, this is my feeling.
In 1996, 21 years after her father's assassination, Sheikh Hasina's dream came true.
After 21 years, we formed government. জনগণের ভোটের অধিকার প্রতিষ্ঠিত হয়েছে, সেজন্যই আমি আনন্দিত। সেই সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আমার মনে পড়ছে এই ভোটের অধিকার আদায়ের জন্য যারা আত্মাহুতি দিয়েছে সেই সব শহীদদের কথা।
But as in her father's time, the real challenges would still lie ahead. Corruption was rife then, and today Bangladesh is still among the most corrupt nations on earth. How is the battle against corruption going? One always reads about corruption in Bangladesh and so on. Is there more or less today than there was 10 years ago?
Of course it is less. You know, if you see that wherever military dictator rule the country, they patronize corruption. I feel that if there is corruption, you cannot develop a country.
The people who make Bangladesh are the farmers in the field, the garment workers, the migrant workers. People like us, middle-class people, live off them. Yet we do very little for them. This is not a nation that takes care of its own people. It's a question of who can utilize that term to get benefits for himself or herself.
What does a leader have to do to stop corruption?
Well, you have to send a message to the nation, to the people and those who are involved in activities. If they can sense, if they can feel that yes, from head of the government we are not getting any indulgence or any facilities, then automatically it reduces.
Today, we have essentially major right-wing political parties taking turns between themselves to run, or not run, to loot a country one after another.
Sheikh Hasina is also accused by some of political manipulation. 3 years ago, she instigated trials against alleged Bangladeshi collaborators in the 1971 War of Independence, trials which have divided the country. What was your motivation in terms of the war crimes trials?
In 1971, as you know, that there was a genocide committed by the then occupied army, Pakistani army, and some of our people here, they collaborated them. They themselves killed many of our people.
For Sheikh Hasina, it's very personal. Her grandparents' house in Tungapara was attacked in 1971 by Pakistani soldiers assisted by local collaborators.
They attacked this house and they burned it. My grandparents were alive. They just took them outside the house. They were sitting in front of them. They burned the house.
With the passage of time, have you forgiven them?
They killed our people. They raped our women. They tortured, and especially those who were Bengali. They are war criminals, so they should get punished.
But opponents claim these are flawed political show trials.
You cannot disassociate war crime trial issue from politics. It's not possible. But the question is how fair the trial process is. That is much more important. And you would find people in Bangladesh who would raise many questions about the degree of fairness at the trial process.
I don't understand why these people are opposing it.
A number of death sentences have been handed out by the courts. All are senior politicians from parties opposed to Sheikh Hasina.
There are 10 opposition figures on trial, including the entire leadership of Jamaat-e-Islami and 2 from the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party. Jamaat-e-Islami has enforced a nationwide strike in protest at the verdicts. The opposition claim this latest sentencing shows again how the Prime Minister is clearing away those who threaten to unseat her in the election scheduled for later this year.
Sometimes you can hear the hue and cry from many quarter that you are taking revenge against opposition and this and that. It is not true. Law will take its own course. those who lost their family members. It is their demand that these criminals should be punished. So it was our commitment to the people. If you don't try these criminals, then you cannot move forward, because it is just like a curse to the nation.
And what of the climate? Is that a curse? The country is a vast delta, a floodplain, fed by huge rivers from the Himalayas. Rivers are essential to the rural economy, and flooding is the norm. But cyclones bring devastation, and global warming threatens millions. This was 1998. A series of cyclones left more than 3/4 of Bangladesh underwater.
That was the worst flood we ever faced in this country. The whole country, about 70% area, was underwater for almost 68 days. There was a prediction that 20 million people may die, but we took all steps to save our people. We prepare food, we send them food, we send them water. We have worked very hard. But because of the geographical situation of Bangladesh, we always face these natural calamities.
What can you do as a human being with Mother Nature?
The climate change, actually Bangladesh is not responsible for.
As the rest of the world